With God, there is always more. More love, more life, more freedom. Welcome to Zoweh's Exploring More with Michael Thompson. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Our Heavenly Father has provided many delightful inns for us along our journey, but He takes great care to see that we do not mistake any of them for home." Join me and the team as we explore the kingdom together, discovering the deep truths and offering encouragement for the journey. There is always more.
Hey listeners, SJ here. Once again, coming to you from the road, and got lots going on and lots moving in the Zoweh world. As we were out on the road visiting various allies in Maryland and DC and Virginia and Atlanta, all over the place, we thought maybe we'd bring you some of our episodes of Recalibrate, which is a third Thursday of the month Zoom call that Greg Saylors, our Allies Director, and the rest of our team are involved in this Recalibrate Zoom call. And we talk about different issues facing men that are involved in men's ministry, men who are married, men who are facing challenges. And it's kind of a forum to just talk openly about some of those things. So we thought we would share a few episodes of Recalibrate with you for the next couple of weeks, and then we'll be back in the studio. Thanks again for your patience. And hey, don't forget about the end of April. We've got a Heart of Warrior Encounter weekend coming up. It's taking place at Rockbridge in Virginia. Go to zoweh.org/events. And while you're there at zoweh.org/events, check out the information about the Deepening Weekend, which is coming mid-May at Sharp Top in Georgia. So that would be for your wives, your daughters, or for those of you who are women listening to our podcast, that one's for you. So check out zoweh.org/events for more information. Thanks.
Hey, what's going on, Zoweh friends and allies? My name is Josh Overton, and I have the privilege and the opportunity to work closely with some of our church allies here in Zoweh. And I'm so glad that you're back with us today for another episode of Recalibrate, which is our monthly rallying call with all of our allies and friends. And today, we're going to take our conversation and split it into two parts. Part one, which is what you're about to watch, is going to be all about two of the values that we really hold close to our chest, right? Two of the pillars, if you will, of what we believe makes up a healthy, active men's ministry and small group. And then part two, we're going to give you 5 resources that you can use in your men's ministry and in your small group. So thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And when you're done watching part 1, be sure to watch part 2.
So tonight's question is, what are some resources that I can use in my men's ministry? What are some resources that I can use in my small group? What are some resources that I can use personally to continue to grow, continue on my journey, this masculine journey, right, with Jesus, of becoming who I am, who I was intended to be, and to help answer those questions of who am I, where am I, and the good that God is up to in my life. And I'll be honest with you, when I talked with Greg and he told me the subject and asked me my thoughts on it, I put my pastor hat on, right? Okay, if this was a sermon that I was preparing, well, I would do what some of you are pastors, I would do what most pastors would do, or I would do what probably your pastor would do if you asked him. I would create 3 points and I would make sure that there's alliteration in each point. And so tonight I've got 2 points that I want to share with you, and there is some alliteration, so it's going to feel very familiar with you. Honestly, 2 values that we hold very close to the chest. And then I'll give you 5 specific resources. Cole and I will share a little bit about 5 specific resources that we believe will be beneficial to you, your men's ministry, your small groups, for you personally as a man, right? And I just want to give you this thought first, okay? I want to lead in with this thought. And this is not going to be, brand new information. You've heard about this, you've thought about this, you've felt this, but here it is. Almost all week long, a man, you and I, the men that are around your circle, around your table, around your fire pit, almost all week long, a man is judged on what he can and cannot do. Regardless if that pressure is placed there by himself, a supervisor, a spouse, we evaluate most of our weeks based on how successful we were at completing or not completing the various tasks and objectives set before us. I believe, guys, men, that we would all agree with that the majority of men evaluate their lives that way. They feel that pressure. So what if in your circle, what if in your small group, what if in your gathering, wherever you do it, however you do it, what if it was not about doing, but it was about being? Because every man wants to belong, he wants to be seen, he wants to be heard as much as anyone. But so little environments and space is created for men where that is the point, right? There's so little spaces and environments created and afforded to men where that can be true. So here's the two things I want to just tell you. And we believe this at Zoweh with our whole heart. I'm just spinning it with a little Josh Overton flavor. Okay. So this is how I would say it, but it is derived from what we believe very much so at Zoweh. It is about the relationship, not the resource. It is about the relationship, not the resource. The resource is important. And I don't care if it's the Heart of a Warrior, if it's the Bible, if it's a John Eldridge book, whatever. Like, the resource is important, 100%. But the goal of you gathering with your men is not about the resource. It is about the relationship. It is about knowing and being known, not just what you know. Those fellas, we're pretty smart guys. I know some of you, you're pretty intellectually smart. Cole, when he talks in a few minutes, and Cole, you can jump in at any point, honestly. But when you hear Cole talk, you're going to be like, that guy's smart. The words he uses, the phrases, like, that guy's smart. I know a lot of smart dudes who do a lot of dumb things. And it is not just about what you know. And most men don't need to know more. They need to be known, and they need to know other men. So I think of this story too. Growing up, I played sports. I'm sure most of you played sports. Did any of you guys play football? Can you just raise your hand? I want to see. I can see you on the screen. Any of you play? Okay, cool. Yep. Yeah, played sports. So when I played football, some of you guys may have went through this too. The first day on the field, and for about the first 2 weeks on the field, when everyone had a helmet on, what went across the top of the helmet? You remember? A piece of tape with your last name on it. Because the coach had no idea who you were. All right. And then you put a helmet on. He had no idea who you were. And I'm just telling you, from Pee Wee to middle school to JV to varsity, I played at every level. And the best coaches that I ever had did not just teach me the X's and O's, but they remembered my name after the tape came off. I'll never forget the practices of running out, full pads, helmet on, no tape on the name, right? Or no name on the helmet, no name on the jersey, and having coach remember who I was. And I'm just telling you, like, you can sit me down in a classroom with film and a whiteboard and show me all the strategy you want. What filled me, what made me swell up with pride, and now I want to go play my butt off for this guy, is because he remembered my name. Because it's not just about what you know, but about being known and knowing others. So just remember that relationship over resource. Like, I'm just telling you, just a minute, when we get to these 5 resources, they matter. What matters more than that is the relationship with your men, with your friends, what you are becoming. The second thing is freedom over formula. Now, this is really hard, especially if you're involved in the church world. From a guy who's been in church every single Sunday night, and Wednesday of his life, for the most part, for a guy who has worked in the church at several different levels for a decade, here's how we think. Formula, program. We need programs, we need systems, we need formulas, but they're not more important than the freedom that you need. Because redemption is a process. Yes, but processes take times. And a lot of times when it comes to getting guys together, what's one of the number one challenges we get? Calendar. And then on the church side of things, I'm not picking on churches. I'm just being like, I am church, right? So the reality is we're like, okay, well, let's do this small group for 12 weeks. And then we'll move on to the next thing. Let's do this small group in order to get through this book. And then once the book is over, then we'll move on to the next thing. Right. And so we're thinking formula, we're thinking program, and we're not giving the time needed for freedom take place. And I'll explain what I mean by that. But I just think about this. When my wife and I got married, we went to look at a bunch of different kitchen tables that we wanted for the house. And my best friend heard about this old tobacco barn in our hometown. He knew the guy whose land it was on. He wanted it torn down. So he came to me and was, hey, man, what if you help me tear this tobacco barn down? And then me, you, and my dad wants to teach me how to build stuff out of this wood, teach me how to work with this, this type of wood, reclaim it, redeem it. Would you want to do that? And I was like, absolutely. So we spent time, me and him, going and tearing the barn down, removing the nails from the wood, hauling all the other material off, taking the wood through the planer, assembling the table, sanding, finishing, sanding, finishing, sanding. It was a long process to produce this beautiful, gorgeous table that is still, and that was 10 years ago, is still in our family right now. It's still our kitchen table. But as we started having kids, had 3 kids fairly quick, it started spilling stuff, doing projects, crafts, paint, all kinds of stuff. And so rather than like freaking out and trying to having to refinish the table every single time or clean it, whatever, we kept it clean because we ate on it. But what I'm saying is, for the better part of 8-9 years, there were still paint stains from Olaf frozen craft that me and my daughter did together when she was 3. Like, I can look at the spot and tell you the story. There's a blemish in the wood from when I was trying to make a cut and I didn't make the right cut. So the board isn't even, right? There's kind of a gap there, but I didn't replace it because I wanted to remember it. And we did that for 9 years. Well, now we moved into a new house. This table was in pretty bad shape. So my wife and I are like going back and forth of like, well, what do we do? Do we keep the table? Like, we can't get rid of it. Like, here's all these stories, all these memories, all these meals shared, all these moments. Like, what are we going to do? So we just decide to keep it, but we agree to strip it, sand it down, strip it, and then refinish it. And that was super bittersweet. But that process took an entire weekend. I got the table outside on a Thursday night, started sanded more on Friday, all the way to finally was able to bring the table back in on like that Monday or Tuesday after a couple coats of polyurethane. So I say all that to say, and you guys know this, redemption it's not instantaneous. From the moment of the wood to building the table to all the years, there's so many moments and memories that I can share with you right now. Tears, laughter, things I'll never forget. And then a chance to start new with a new coat of paint. But even that process took several days. You can't rush this. There is a formula to this, and the formula is freedom. The formula is life. The formula is love, and that takes time. And the best road to get there is story. You learning my story, me learning your story, that takes time. That cannot be contained in a day, in a time, in a room. You can't formalize that. You just have to live it. You just have to do it. So the one pointer I'll give you on that is always ask questions. Ask more questions. Ask more questions. You've heard Jim say this all the time. Resist the temptation to respond. Respond by asking more questions. There's guys in your groups right now that have said 2 words. And then there's guys in your groups right now that dominate the conversation every time. You know who I'm talking about. When you get that guy who has said 2 words to finally open up and respond, it's like talking to my 8-year-old every day. Hey, buddy, how was your day? Good. Okay. There's a great opportunity for me as an adult to just like, okay, cool, and then move on. Or I can say, well, what was good about it? And I know what he's going to say. I played basketball today. Okay. So what was good about basketball? Like, you've got to lead your men that way. Like I do my 8-year-old kid who is like content with just saying good and then moving on. But the more I can get him to talk, I find out, well, a month ago, you had a situation with a kid on the court that caused you to not to be able to play basketball for a week. Right. So let's talk about that. What's going on there? It just leads into more conversation, more story. And that's what you want. That is the gold that you can mine out of some of those situations. So relationship over resource, freedom over formula. And the best road to get to more life, more love, more freedom is more story. I hope that's helpful. And honestly, I believe that more than any of the specific books that we're about to talk about in just a moment, if you would just apply those two things to your groups, little secret here, you could read anything. You could read any, like, pick a book, whatever. Like, but if those two things are happening, oh man, it's going to enrich whatever book you're reading. And as Cole and I will share in just a few moments, it might not even be a book. It may be something else. But
Hey, thanks again for taking the time to watch today. We really appreciate it. As always, make sure you like and subscribe. That guarantees that you don't miss any of the content that we have coming out right here on YouTube. And be sure that you're with us live for the next Recalibrate, second Thursday of every single month. Zoweh.org/allies. Thanks.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Exploring More. The landing page for this podcast is Zoweh.org/podcast. That's ZOWEH.org/podcast, where you can find the show notes and various platforms to which we broadcast. You can also find us and the Life of More by visiting Zoweh on YouVersion Bible app, Right Now Media, our Facebook page, and Zoweh on Instagram and Twitter. Remember, with God there is always more, and you were made for more.